So this video is going to explore organisational ambidexterity, explain what it is, some of the challenges with it, and how it's done. And it really links to the whole question around innovation culture and how innovation can be enabled at an organisational level, not simply an individual level. But it also throws up those other questions about how you can fit in innovation into an organisation who might not feel they need it, or they are quite happily making a profit, quite happily functioning as they are. It raises a question about strategy, about when to do what you need to do in terms of generating an innovation or a new product or a new service for next year or for 2 years' time. So innovation here is about strategy, it's about planning, and it's about managing that planning process. The first question then is organisational ambidexterity. What is it? Well, let's look at it like this. On the one hand, organisations must explore opportunities for developing innovative products, services and processes and engage in emerging markets. This is the sort of stuff that you would do if you were starting a business. The early stages of business development. It's that process of looking at new markets, looking at opportunities, and engaging with those new markets and opportunities. But equally, on the other hand, you must exploit existing products, services and processes, and continue to engage in mature markets through efficient operations. So you are working in the business, so to speak. You are delivering your product, your service, and you are thriving. You are functioning as a business. But of course, the question about your competitive advantage, will it remain? Will competitors catch up with you? Will your customers begin to look for other possibilities, other products and services? There's this demand really on any organisation to continually think ambidextrously, on the one hand serving current markets, on the other hand thinking about the markets for next year, 2 years' time. And as we've looked at a couple of case studies already, for example Kodak, we've noted that there are lots of instances where businesses have failed to function in that manner. They've failed to look to the future. They've failed to plan for 2 to 3 years down the line. They're too busy serving the current market, doing it very well, but within that that commitment to their current market lies potential failure to serve future markets. A little bit more about what organisational ambidexterity is. So organisational ambidexterity is an organisational capability to engage in exploitation and exploration to manage change in turbulent environments. So there's a couple of things to note here. It's a capability. So it's an organisation has put in place tools, structures, resources to manage that capability, to do both, to not just to hope that it happens, but to ensure that both things are happening. Now, we referenced here turbulent environments. Well, that is where the thinking tends to emerge from. That times change. Within those changing times, current markets become destabilized, so we have to constantly think about alternatives, which we saw very evidently over the past year or so with COVID. That people have to think about alternatives, that current market disappears or destabilizes. What are the alternatives? And having that ability to pivot, to change direction, to add new products, new services, new ways of operating is really important. Exploitation refers to the refinement of existing products, services, and processes to achieve operational productivity. Activities related to exploitation are associated with problem solving and control. So it's about maximizing efficiency in the current market to ensure competitive advantage, to ensure you are ahead of the game in terms of meeting market needs, meeting your customer needs. Changes here are kind of very incremental, very minor. They're tweaks, they're continual improvement while you exploit your current market. But you can begin to see that energies expended here can mean that all of your eggs are in one basket, that all of your commitments are on one market. What happens if that market begins to dry up, begins to destabilize? And that is very much the nature of any market. Stability doesn't last very long. On the other hand, the purpose of exploration is radical innovation of products, services, and processes to achieve adaptability and growth. So this is thinking about the bigger changes that can be made that aren't necessarily in demand now, but maybe in the future, and ensuring that you've got continuity in your business. So as your current market begins to shift or dry up, begins to destabilize, or begins to be adapted or poached by other competitors, it means that you've got continuity with a new market or a new product serving the same market. But it's this continual cycling around. Okay, we've got a market now, but what will our market look like in the future? Innovation has to happen, not when it's needed necessarily, but when, but planning for when that need occurs a bit further down the line. The biggest challenge, I think, for any business, and this is in my experience of working with businesses, is that the commitments and the demands that are in front of you tend to be all-consuming. And taking time out to think about what's going to happen in 2 years' time, 1 year's time, always takes a back seat. One of the problems, or one of the challenges, if you like, that organizations will face when trying to adopt this ambidextrous model is that the resources, the skills, the mindsets needed for both kinds of operation are different. If you think back to our discussions around convergent and divergent thinking, you can see that actually they map quite well onto exploration and exploitation. They require different sorts of mindsets, different ways of operating, different skills, different personnel. So to summarize, as exploitation and exploration compete for scarce resources, have conflicting managerial demands, and build on different capabilities, organizations must manage the tensions between them. And I had a very good example of this. I used to, many years ago, work in an organization, a media center, which provided two services. One was training and education, and the other was a professional video production service. Two parts of the same organization, but both competed for different sorts of resources. The training and education was in some ways the core, bread and butter. This is what we're exploiting now. The video production was a new addition to what we were doing. We were hoping to gain more income from that a bit further down the line. So it was exploratory. But the students who were learning about video production and the education and training required the equipment that was needed to start delivering on the video production for a commercial context. And what we found is that people were fighting over this resource, and it wasn't always clear who would get preference. But that management must happen for it to work. There's two approaches to this ambidextrous process. So ambidexterity refers to the synchronous pursuit of both exploration and exploitation via loosely coupled and differentiated subunits or individuals, each of which specializes in either exploration or exploitation. Now, in summary, what this means is that you do both at the same time, that you will have one team exploiting, doing the delivery, meeting the market need now, and you'll have another team doing the R&D, the research and development, who will be thinking about what's happening in 2 years' time. This seems to be a great solution. You're doing both at the same time. There is that issue about competing for resources, but we can maybe deal with that. The downside is that you've got two separate teams who are doing two separate things. You could argue that those people who are involved in the R&D don't really know what the core product is and can't exploit that or can't work on that. You've got to find a way for those two teams to actually be working together, not working necessarily in different directions. That can be a challenge. The other way of thinking about this is what you might call, and what has been called, punctuated equilibrium. Refers to temporal rather than organizational differentiation, and suggests that cycling through periods of exploration and exploitation is a more viable approach than a simultaneous pursuit of the two. So what we're talking about here really is that that you'll take time out to do the exploration. You won't do it at the same time as the exploitation. You will maybe spend I don't know, a week every year working on a new innovation, working on a new product, and it means that you're taking time out where the whole of the organization might do this. So you're not having two teams, you're using a whole organizational approach who will work on both the exploitation and the exploration. And this is going to have a much more integrated process where those who are already doing exploitation kind of know what the new innovation might be, might already have some idea of that, and it's not left in charge of a team who might not really understand that. So, in summary, organisational ambidexterity is a kind of theoretical perspective on how organisations function and how they manage two separate business functions. One is exploitation of the current market and current assets and current products and services. That is doing business. And on the other hand is the exploration, how they work on the business, if you like, how they think about the future of the business, how they develop the business, how they maintain that sustainability. What am I going to be doing with this business in 2 years' time? And there's various ways in which businesses do it. One is that simultaneously working on now and in the future. Others just when they feel they need to, or they schedule time to work on future products and services as an organisation. But it's certainly something that you will need to consider when you begin to think about innovation innovation strategies for the organisations that you work with. Thank you.